and uh, you know, doing it at a proper time, like when everybody is here. So I think it's about 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. in Sydney right now, I believe. So where's the chat? Live chat. There we go. There we go. We're all set up. I think this is a good time to go live. Hopefully that stays there, doesn't fall over. So, got myself a coffee here. Sean, how you going? I probably should have given everyone a little bit of notice before actually going live. Damn. Derp, I got your email. I replied to you, by the way. I don't know. What I did is I just burnt the boats basically and got myself a one-way ticket. So there's no return ticket to Australia. Who knows? Things might go poorly and I might have to come back to Australia, but hopefully never. Hopefully never. Never say never though, because anything's possible. But Australia is kind of a mess. Yeah, it's pretty bad. Well, the whole system in Australia is a mess. Ever since John Howard got in power, the wrong type of crooked people have been in control of Australia, and they've kind of ruined the country, and they're enslaving the people. I think most Australians are aware of that now. So, if you're joining up, maybe because it's my first live in a long time, can you give me a thumbs up on this video? Just because I haven't uploaded to this channel in forever, and the YouTube probably has forgotten that this channel even exists. And a lot of the people who are subscribed probably don't even get notified if I do this live. It's probably a good idea to do a live now anyway, just to see, because that's what YouTube does with channels it doesn't necessarily like. They will just crush it. So if you're in the chat, give me a bit of a thumbs up. Yeah. So yeah. Well, you're a member, Sean. That's why you got notified, because you're a member. And things are looking good for what we're chatting in the members section. Okay, there we go. It was just there. That's good. There we go. So, as you can see, I have a nice pool. That's a 50-meter pool. There's two of them. Actually, over here, just this side here, there's another one, but it zigzags a little bit. Right next to me, there's a barbecue. Let me show you the barbecue. You gotta see this. You gotta see this barbecue. So, there's the barbecue. As you can see, got this. Got a nice seating area. There we go. So, how's the cost of living in Australia going? How's life for you guys? I think it's only going to get worse in Australia. I think the cost of living's going to only continue to just get out of control. And Australia's the richest country on planet Earth. Australia is so wealthy that basically every Australian should be able to retire with the amount of money that those resources are bringing into the country. But what has happened is we have a whole bunch of people in the government being controlled by other people. There's a special group of people controlling the Australian government. And, I remember recently when Tucker Carlson came to Australia, he flew in and he heard, and this is great when someone's new to your country, they will see it with fresh eyes. They will see things that you don't necessarily see yourself because you live here. Well, I don't live there anymore. You live in Australia. You're too close to the problem. You don't necessarily see it. And when Tucker Carlson flew into Australia, a voiceover came over while he was during the flight landing, and they said basically this land belongs to the blah 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 people, whoever those people are. Basically, you don't own the land. It's not your land. And we both know that the people that they're talking about don't actually get the land either. The Aboriginals don't get the land. Nobody gets the land. So who gets ownership over Australia, if that's the case? And this is what Tucker Carlson brought up when he landed in Australia and he gave that speech. He basically noticed something that most Australians don't notice, is that if nobody owns the land, then somebody does. And why do they do that? It's because they want the money. They want the money that is coming from all the resources that's being taken out of the land, basically. And they don't want you to have ownership over it. There's so many countries. There's a few countries in Europe. There's quite a few of them that have ownership over their own land, and whatever resources are taken out of the land, they distribute a large percentage of it to the general population. But in Australia, the richest country on planet Earth, such a wealthy country, like not billions, like trillions of dollars is coming out of Australia. Trillions. And the people of Australia aren't seeing any of it. They're not seeing any of it at all. They're just being gaslit. They're being told that they don't have any rights to it. And so they're squeezing us, and then what they do is they flood us with different demographics of people from all over the world, and dilute our ability to basically unite. And so over time it gets to the point where they just keep squeezing the Australian people and squeezing, and now it's I've been looking online. There's so many videos of people uploading. It's more prevalent in the UK, but it's starting to become more common in Australia, where people are just uploading videos to YouTube saying why I left the UK or why I left Australia, why I'm leaving Canada. And these people, there's a saying, the fittest rats jump ship first. and they go somewhere else for a better life. Now you see the smart people that saw opportunities in the United States 100 years ago, and they got on boats and they had to travel for sometimes a month just to get to the United States. They get to the United States and they got rich. There was very few regulations. There was very few laws. It wasn't a nanny state, and basically, because of that, they had the ability to own land, own property, get wealthy, and a lot of people say 50, 60 years ago, that was what happened when they came to Australia, you see. But now Australia has got to the point where we've got all the infrastructure we need. They've built all of the high-rise apartments that they think that they need. They don't want to build any more because that would increase the property price. That would decrease the property prices. They got the trains. They got the bus system. They've got everything that they basically need, and they've got the people to. They've basically got all the infrastructure that they need at this point. And now it's just a political game in Australia. Politics is everything now in Australia. There's no use working hard. There's no use doing the right thing, being intelligent, obeying the laws and being a good upstanding citizen, because it is impossible for you to get ahead in Australia without actually becoming a criminal, or becoming a legal criminal and engaging in some sort of politics, basically, or being born into it. So it's not the Australia I grew up in. Everything's changed. Oh, by the way, my grandfather was from Luton. I'm sure Luton's been put on the map recently, but my grandfather came from Luton. Legitimately came from Luton. He escaped Luton, I don't know how many years ago, 70 years ago, 80 years ago or something like that. And he came to Australia. I think we're at the point where if there's going to be a genocide anywhere, or there's going to be... Yep, I've heard all about Luton. I know exactly what's going on over there. You can just look online. People go there, it's almost like... It's like people traveling to Afghanistan just to film it for clicks. They travel to Luton and some of those shitholes in Britain just for clicks these days. Australia's not too far behind. Part of the reason is the boomers are just sitting back, just eating up all of the resources, all of the hard work of the productive part of the Australian society, and the rest is just everyone's just on this treadmill and they can never get ahead. So anyway, the political system is such a mess. You guys saw what happened to my my grandmother's apartment. It's when stuff like that happens and you see all the bad things in the world and you start to think, you realize, is there really a God? because what type of society... This happens all the time. It's happened throughout history. Is there really a God? Is any of this even happening? Because that was kind of the last straw for me. How did that even happen, where some trash bag can come and take shit that they don't deserve, they never earned, basically steal it through just there's so many laws in Australia that are clearly just, you know, they're just like morally wrong, and everyone would get together. If we had a whole bunch of people get together and look at some of these laws and some of the rulings, we would all agree that they were just, you know, wrong, corrupt, whatever. And this is what the Americans got right from day one, the right to bear arms, because the government and evil people that have power over you will always use it to ruin your life, steal what is yours, enslave you. And that, I think most people would agree, is happening in Australia. So now we're at this point where I think the majority of Australians, you would be better off for your standard of living, just leaving. Now, you're probably struggling in Australia. You're probably having a lot of trouble keeping a roof over your head. But if you, if you just like saved up some cash, you might be able to, just go find somewhere else to live, somewhere else other than Australia. And there's a lot of people going to Queensland at the moment, where they built the gas chambers. What do they call it? Wellness camp, just in case they want to lock everyone else up again. But I think you can have a higher standard of living. It depends on, like if you're in Australia, you might be able to save up some cash and get out. There's so many countries worldwide right now that have everything Australia has, except for the infrastructure. You see, Sydney's got the trains, they've got the light rail, they got a bunch of buses, etc. But there's so many countries worldwide that have, internet just as fast. As you guys can see, I'm live on YouTube, and I'm sitting around a pool, and the internet's quite fast. They have everything I need. The food is great. My rent here, by the way, just in case you're wondering, I'm using, you know how we got like all these websites like booking.com, Trip. There's a whole bunch of these websites where you can, just book a hotel or whatever. But also, you can book a hotel and try out a location. Some of them are serviced apartments. You can stay in a serviced apartment for a higher rate and try it out for a week. And then if you choose to stay, sign a lease for, say, 6 months, and it will literally cut your cost of living in half. So right now, to stay here where I am right now, beautiful 50-meter pool. There's another pool right next to it. If you can see on the other side there, on the other side over here, past these palm trees, there's another pool there. And on my left, there's a beautiful gym. I upload videos of what I'm doing in the private members group, if you guys are interested in seeing it. I uploaded how much I pay for food. I talk about, what I'm going to talk about here anyway, but I also show some clips that I won't post public. $200 a week to live in, this is legit 5-star luxury. $200 a week. What is that at the end of the year? Like, you're not even paying 11,000 Australian dollars per year. So let's just say you saved up 150k. You can stay here a decade. There's your rent for a decade, even if you didn't make any money for a decade. You can wait around and probably survive and live the high life in 5-star luxury abroad, and wait until Australia properly gets wrecked. I think Australia is going to get wrecked within the next decade. 2034 is my year, and I'm sticking to it. I think the same thing will happen. 2033, things will start hitting the they'll start hitting the fan. 2034, the United States will be totally kicked out of Asia, I would say. So here, like my goal here is to try to get fit, hit the gym as much as possibly. There's the gym's actually quite big as well. It's really good. Nice apartment with like a massive flat screen TV with like YouTube and Netflix and everything you need on it. I'm looking around, I'm just thinking, what? Like, is this here? And I started looking around even more, thinking, why is it so cheap? And part of the reason why it's cheap is because a lot of these countries in Asia, their people are leaving, and they're going to places like Australia, and they're just cramming into Australia. God knows why. Maybe it's just to get hold of the currency so they can send some currency back home. But a lot of their best and brightest and wealthiest are leaving. And while their home countries are building magnificent places like this, and they have an oversupply of beautiful apartments and an undersupply of demand. It's literally the total opposite of Australia. In Australia, there is such an oversupply of people and an undersupply of stock. They're just not building anything in Australia. Inflation, I would say inflation is far higher in Australia than most of these Asian countries. And the thing is, you can see it because everything that you do in Australia is becoming more and more expensive every day. The property prices keep going up, not because... See, property prices going up is not a sign of a successful country, I don't think. It's more of a sign of just inflation, just getting out of control. And what is it? Home ownership's down to like 50% now in Australia. That's only going to get worse because the government has deliberately put in place policies to crush the family unit. And what happens when you crush the family unit? Well, the young men don't make enough money to own a house. They get crushed by, divorce problems and feminism bullying them everywhere they go in public. So they don't end up having a wife and kids early enough. And the boomers, they don't have a lot of children to hand down their properties to. And so what happens? There's so many boomers dying off and handing their properties over to who? The government. So it's all part of their plan to take ownership and turn Australia into a feudal society. Now, we can sit here and complain, and I've spent a decade complaining on this channel. I can't believe it. Hang on. So next year, in March next year, I would have been complaining for a decade on this channel. So it's been 9.5 years so far. Um, but what's happening in Australia, there's nothing you can do about it. Things aren't going to change. So what the best way for you to act right now is to go, okay, what am I going to do to improve my life? And in a lot of cases, you have the ability to leave. A lot of people did leave Britain. They left. There's lots of refugees leaving and going all over the place. And a lot of these people, they went to better countries with nothing. So for you guys trapped in Australia, you're struggling to pay rent, you're not saving any money. How many of you guys in the chat have gone out to an expensive restaurant in the last month? Probably none of you. It's just a rip-off. You're going to spend what, $200 in an expensive restaurant? Hardly anyone can afford that. I think to buy a steak in a pub, it's like $25, $30 these days. So yeah, so this is kind of where we're at, and I don't see it getting any better for Australians. There's some people saying that there's a possibility the property market will collapse, but let's just say it did collapse short term. Crypto tax-friendly countries are on my list. Now we're talking. You need to join the members group, by the way. I want you to click on the members group and join the members group of this channel. That's what we're talking about in there. That's like number one. The smartest people in the world are literally looking at the only real solution really is to look at crypto, to try and figure out how to secure some sort of yield. But believe me, there's a lot of people that if they could, they would buy property, but they just can't get on the property. They just can't get onto property at all. They can't afford anything, and so they're kind of trapped. And the only thing they can afford is to try to I'm just getting distracted by the chat, just trying to keep up with you guys. The only thing you can buy is crypto, and you're better off buying a shitcoin that could go to zero or go to 100x and legit gamble in some cases. This is why people say that the biggest tax on the poor is the lottery. But I think the lottery's rigged these days as well. I don't know who's winning the lottery. I don't know who's winning the lottery. I don't know if the winners of the lottery are even real. It just seems like it's a bit of a scam. One thing I do know is real is if you buy a shitcoin and it doubles or triples, you can then sell it and you've made some money. I know that for sure, certain. But there's no way to verify that the lottery's not rigged. It probably is rigged. It could be rigged by the same people doing shit in the Middle East right now, for all I know. So, when you look at options in Australia, there's not a lot of options. I remember when I was a kid seeing, just like if you're a mechanic or you owned your own, even if you owned a small shitty little business, like a shitty business, nothing fancy, you could get a loan. Within 5-6 years, you've paid off a house in a nice area. That's I think all options have now been exploited in Australia. You're not only competing with other people buying properties, you're competing with big companies that are going way out into the peripheral, right on the edge of Sydney, the edge of Melbourne, and they're buying whatever bargains they can. They got full time, like people working full time, scouting all over the place looking for bargains, and they got more money than you, they're more connected to you than you, and you just you can't win in that market anymore. There's no, in the past, maybe 20, 30 years ago, you could buy a cheap property, which is the equivalent of a shit coin, and it could do 100x. That was our parents and our grandparents. Shitcoin was buying an apartment in a nice area near a train track, and then 5-10 years later it's like 10x or something ridiculous like that. Now the only way is buying some sort of crypto, and now we're starting to realize that this is going to backfire on Australia eventually, but it won't backfire on the people who run the country. The people who run the country are going to be just fine. The elites, the political system, the corrupt people at the top, they're going to be just fine. No matter what you do individually, whether you leave Australia or not, they are going to be just fine. Their lives are going to be fine. They're going to be able to afford nice places. Their standard of living isn't going to decrease. They're going to have access to the best healthcare. The people who run Australia are going to be just fine no matter what you do, and there's very little that you can do. Keep in mind, you're not armed. You're kind of helpless to some extent. And so under your circumstances, the majority of Australians, I'd say like 80% of Australians, you have to start looking at your own standard of living and trying to think, how can I improve my life? They got these, that's right, obey slaves. You are all slaves. You just don't know it. And, what is it? There's 80% of Australians, their standard of living is decreasing. And I think there's a large percentage of people right now that have mortgages, and they're on the edge of having to either default and possibly sell their property and get out before it's too late. And so I can see a situation where a lot of these Australians that are under a little bit of mortgage stress at the moment, the government's kind of aware of that, and you can see how they're starting to think about lowering interest rates to prop it up. The more people go, there's going to be economic collapse, this bad thing's going to happen. Don't listen to those people, because the people running the economy, they have it all under control. They see that you're under mortgage stress. They will get to the point where you are about to sell your property and you're about to freak out and go bankrupt. And just before you do, they will lower the interest rates just so that they can keep you as their slave for life. And that's the way it's set up. And they're doing just fine. They want to be able to squeeze you for as long as they can. And so none of that's going to really change. The only real solution, I would say, for most of you individually is start thinking Where's the greener pastures? And I look at this and I just think, I think I found it. I think I found greener pastures. Again, if you guys, you want to know what we're talking about in the private members section, join up to the members section. And also, if you want to know hang on, what was that? What was that comment? What was that comment? I don't know. I don't think it matters fighting back. Here's a simplistic way of looking at it. Back in, 2001, we had a crisis that was created by a certain group of people to tell you that a certain group of people that put towels on their head are coming after you and they're going to drop bombs on you or something. When you look at the data, there's absolutely no evidence of that happening anywhere in the West, ever. But there's a lot of Australians that still believe it. Case in point is the dummy that went on a shooting rampage in New Zealand. He was just brainwashed. Low IQ, can't fact check simple things himself. And then another crisis was created not long ago, the COVID one. And there's been multiple little crises in between that have just been created. People are saying that they might start a new crisis in the next, say, maybe the end of next year. So what we do is we, I don't know what PSYOP that was. It was clearly a guy that was retarded who went on a shooting rampage. But yeah, you hold one currency, you stay in one country until as long as you're able to spot that things are on the decline, and you just change. You just keep changing and trying to improve your life, basically. A lot of Chinese are buying Tether, the USDT. They're buying Tether, which is a stable coin. It's a crypto. It is basically the US dollar in crypto form. And what they're doing is they're just taking their wealth out of the country and leaving. And no one can really track them. If Tether gets in trouble, the smart money that's holding Tether will then switch it to another one. Maybe there'll be another currency that will come along soon. Who knows? I'm of the belief that Australia will probably shut down its own dollar. The Australian dollar may start to decrease over time, and we might replace the Australian dollar with the US dollar, because I remember I did a debate. This guy had like 1 million subscribers. This was quite a while ago. I went on his channel and debated him about geopolitics, and he asked me about what is the petrodollar. And someone like myself that will actually fact check what is the petrodollar, how many dollars are actually used for the petrodollar, and how many US dollars are flowing throughout the entire economy, and really just look at the numbers. I started to notice that the petrodollar wasn't as big of a thing as people were saying it was. In fact, the new trend that the US government is doing right now is convincing countries that it's in its best interest to not have its own independent currency and adopt the US dollar. That's the new petrodollar. I don't know what you could call it. You could call it the US dollar internationalization, basically. I could see a future where the Australian people will have US dollars and Australian dollars, two sets of currencies in circulation within Australia on the street in the not too distant future. That's a possibility. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I think it's a distinct possibility. And when that starts to happen, you'll start to notice that that's we're getting to the end of the American empire, and America will eventually go home, and Australia will eventually become Venezuela. That'll be one of the final nails in Australia's coffin. But when that starts to happen, you don't want to be in Australia. You want to be somewhere else. And the good thing about studying geopolitics is with a little bit of research, you know where you can go. There's so many places worldwide that you can go that are, are going to be safe. Whoops, hang on, something's happening. Yeah, so you'll also notice that Europe lowered its interest rates, because they're gearing up for a massive war economy. Germany doesn't have any manufacturing anymore, does it? Well, it does, but not as much as it used to. They're lowering interest rates. Canada lowered interest rates. The United States lowered the interest rates. It wasn't just a little one; it was 0.5%. It was a big drop. That tells you what's up. China just lowered interest rates twice in a row. That tells you something too. We've got the next Fed meeting in less than 2 weeks. We have the next Fed meeting, and so what happened there? Slipped down a bit. There we go. Beautiful pool, 50-meter pool. So I think in the next 2 weeks there's going to be another Fed meeting, and they'll probably lower the interest rates again. I think it's just before the election or straight after. We're not guessing where I am. I would never say where I am. If you want to get on a private consultation, you're in Australia, and you want to go live a better life elsewhere, feel free to, reach out. We'll do a consultation. What I did was, before the lockdowns happened, I was of the belief that the Australian government wasn't evil. It was kind of neutral. But when the lockdowns happened, it was quite clear that the Australian government was actually evil, and run by the same genocidal maniacs that are killing everybody in the Middle East right now. And so they have, if they need to, they will start murdering you so fast. If you're naive to what they did during COVID, they will kill you. They will murder you, and they will not think about it. They will not think about it. Yep, paywall to find out. That's it. This channel hasn't been monetized in 9.5 years. There's never been any links to buy anything. I've never sold anything on this channel for 9.5 years. Now I'm selling consultations. I would only do consultations if anyone would reach out to me. Quite often I would get there'd be large companies that were doing international trade, and what they would do is gather information from all different areas, and some of them would reach out to me, even if it was like a horoscope, you know, um, even if it's like reading the tea leaves, hiring me is still another data point that they can add to, what their company would do moving forward. So that's what would happen quite often. And every now and then I'll have people, want to do like consulting calls. But now it's a little bit more serious. And I want to do it too. So I tried, people appreciate it less if it's free. And, like the way that I would help other people on social media, some of the big names that you guys are aware of, helping them on their social media, brainstorming what ways to, protest and build their audience and influence things that are happening in Australia. I don't get paid for any of that. And so now I still have the knowledge of what's going on in the world. It's quite the beauty of geopolitics is that it's undefeated. It is superior. You can kind of guess. With a high degree of accuracy what's going to happen in the future. What the fuck is this? There's no Crocs in there. Where I'm not that far out in a third world shithole. Well, that's, as an Aussie, that's your option. You go out into the country. You're probably good out in the country, because they just don't have the volume of police and government officials out there to control you. So you have a little bit more freedom as long as you've got enough money to, pay the bills and everything. The other option is getting on a flight or one-way ticket out of the country, making sure you've got enough cash, and sorting out visas, figuring out where's a good place to go. I'd also, the area I'm in right now, I chose it for its geopolitical reasons. It's economic reasons. I chose it because I predict this one will also have a relatively secure future. It's building some infrastructure that should help its economy grow moving forward. There's such an oversupply of apartments being built with an undersupply of demand in this country at the moment. So therefore property prices, rent, it's basically free. If I wanted to, I could probably get an apartment here without a pool and without a gym, just a small little apartment. I could pay 100 Australian dollars a month. I'm not even joking. And I'd still probably have a higher standard of living than the average Australian. So, so moving forward, I think in this country I'm in right now, if you were to buy property moving forward, you build it and they will come. I believe that this country, when people start waking up and instead of trying to get into Western countries, they will start looking to their neighbors. Because in reality, what do you need? You need you need a place that isn't heavily polluted. You need a nice roof over your head with some sort of infrastructure, some sort of roads. You need relatively clean drinking water and air, and job opportunities, economy. You need Wi-Fi, all of the basic stuff, which all of these countries have now. you know, I remember growing up in Australia, there was lots of vacant land everywhere, and you know, it wasn't as developed as it is today, and that's why a lot of the boomers became wealthy. They just got in early on a country that was developing. Now most of the big cities in Australia are like overdeveloped. They're finished. They're done, and they've got no need for you. So if you were to figure out how to get your money out of Australia and then buy some property in a city that is developing, and when there's such a large population in Asia and they've got a lot of money, if they if they start coming to these countries in Asia and bringing their money, so I would say the property prices would increase in these countries too. And job opportunities are only increasing in a lot of these countries. There's factories. They're actually manufacturing, which is what we're not doing. No, there's not much milk in Asia, that's for sure. So if you want milk, you're going to have powdered milk, you know? But I don't think it's a big deal. I don't think it's that big of a deal. You know, you don't get everything. But, I was talking to, okay, look at the Hilton on George Street. That's a 5-star hotel. There's not enough beef here either. So I'll give you that as well. So there's not enough beef. So basically cows. There's not enough milk and cows, beef, lamb. But there are, lower grades of beef. There are a lot of fish here too, which is good. There's a lot of let's not be guessing where I am. I'm just not telling you guys. You can join up to the private members section or do a consulting call and I'll actually tell you. It is peaceful. It's really peaceful here. Yeah. It's really peaceful here. It's but yeah, no, like if you need a good steak, that's one thing it doesn't have. If you need like fresh milk, that's one thing most countries worldwide just can't compete with Australia. Let's not be guessing. So I'm not telling you guys where I am. And the chances, it's funny, I did a consulting call and he couldn't believe where I am. You guys will not be able to guess it. Keep in mind, I look at the geopolitics of a country. Where you guys go on holiday or you travel is not somewhere I'm going to go. They're shit countries. They're shit countries propped up by tourism, shit governments that are connected to Australia, sex tourism, the trannies love those places too. That's not somewhere I'm going. I'm going to somewhere that has a future. And this place does have a future based on just basic geopolitics. Inflation rate's pretty low. The country's got a high. It's growing. So whatever the inflation rate is, it can grow into it quite easy. But again, it's better to be flexible too. If anything happens in any of these countries, you want to have the ability to move. There we go. There we go. So what have I been doing? What have I been doing? Yeah, there's when you think about like Sydney or Australia, it's like you just have to get better and better at everything that you do just to try and stay ahead in every aspect of your life. 50 years ago, if you had a diploma, you could become a millionaire. Now you could have multiple PhDs, and still be working poor in Australia. That says a lot. There's almost no way of getting ahead. But the thing is, I met a guy here in the mall, and I asked him, I was like, what are you doing here? And he said he's here studying, and his country has some sort of a deal here. Whoops. Is World War III going to happen? That's a great clickbaity question, isn't it? But let me complete this thought. We'll get on to World War III in a second. And I need to do some laps in that thing there. I need to do a whole bunch of so I met a guy. So okay, get fucked. I met a guy, okay, and he was here studying, right? And apparently many of the countries in Asia now, their universities, they can get like a degree, even a PhD here, that is recognized in the West. Now that's got to blow your mind. So then there's now a lot of people coming to Asia to do their masters, even do their PhDs, because it's transferable back in the West. And I asked him, okay, so what are you doing? He said he's doing his masters. I was like, oh wow, so how much is that? He said, I think it was like $3,000. I was like, hang on, can you like 3000? He goes, yeah. I was like, what is that, like what currency is that in? It just blew my mind. So he goes, oh, it doesn't include rent or anything. I was like, okay. So he's going to get his masters basically for free, live like a king for a year and a half, and then take it back to the West. So you can see it happening in Asia now, where a lot of the things in the West you can just get in Asia, and it doesn't have to be better than the West, but it's a lot cheaper. And so when's World War III going to kick off? Did I tell you guys I went to Taiwan recently? So basically, since COVID kicked in, I was busy. When COVID kicked in, I was like, oh wow, the government actually is going to kill us. Our own government is going to eventually trigger some sort of a genocide. They're taking more of our rights away. This is serious. So I realized, and you'll notice that this channel was rebranded. I stopped really posting that much anymore because I realized that this was serious. Like, the government's legit preparing to kill you. All of you guys in the chat, the government wants to kill you. This is not a joke. This is not hyperbolic. I'm not doing it for clicks. So during the lockdowns, I started writing. I wrote a book. I built multiple websites. I taught myself how to build websites. I started building other social media to start up my own business. I built an email list, a digital product which you can buy. I created um, a whole bunch of things, and then got to work on that. But keep in mind, you have to know what you're doing in whatever business you get into. And on top of that, started trying to plan what am I going to do, and I started traveling as well. So I went all over Asia. I went to Indonesia, Philippines, Singapore. I went to Vietnam, Thailand. I went to Japan, Taiwan, Hong Kong. Went to. I haven't been to Malaysia yet. It's on my list. That's one of the big ones. Obviously, I recently went to Guangzhou, by the way, as like a bit of a test. I didn't get arrested, so I think I'm good. Went to South America. Every, say, 3 months since the lockdowns, I was on a flight out of the country for another month. And I wanted to not only put to test what I thought of these countries geopolitically, I wanted to see it with my own eyes. I was recently in Taiwan, and I had a long conversation with a guy who runs a geopolitical talk show, and I didn't know this guy was so big at that stage, but he's now running the #1 basic talk show on the national broadcaster in Taiwan, and I thought it was just going to be a little podcast. And, I spent almost 2 hours on the phone to him talking about geopolitics and what we think the future of Taiwan is. What's that noise? Somebody is doing something. Someone's like blowing something. I don't know what that is. Anyway, so I ended up in Taiwan. I had a good talk to this guy, and I got a good insight into the thinking of the country. And I'm even more certain that Taiwan is fine now. Did you guys notice that the last week the exports of South Korea has basically collapsed? Now, one of my longest, it's peaceful, apart from this guy, I don't know what he's doing, but apart from that, it's peaceful. I still believe South Korea's got to go. I think South Korea's on its way out. I think that if you look at, I think you could probably Google the exports of South Korea at the moment, and yeah, that's actually a good point, by the way, Sean. That's what happens in developing countries. They're actually building stuff. If that noise was happening in any apartment block in Sydney, there would be some piece of shit Karen out there yelling at him. But complaining that it's too noisy when he's got shit to do, right? you see people building on these high rises late at night here too. It'll be midnight, you'll go past the construction site and they just need something to be done, so they just do it. There's nothing holding them back, basically, and there's no Karens complaining about stupid little stuff. So you see all the smoke? I don't know what it is. It's like, I don't know, like pest control or something. That even though if I breathe that in, it's probably toxic for me, but breathing that in still feels better than breathing in the toxicity of living in Australia. Just being in Australia was just like, it was just too much for me. I think if I didn't have some good people around me back then, and I think I would have went crazy back in Australia. I don't know how most people do it. So yeah, are we going to talk about World War III? Is that even a thing, or is there just one person in the chat that wants that question answered? It's been an hour. How about we save it for another time? I need to get in the pool, pump out some laps. I wanted to do a live that I'd leave on the channel. And give you guys a bit of an update that I basically burnt the boats. Got a one-way ticket out of Australia. I saw a guy that uploaded a video saying, I'm leaving the UK and I'm never coming back. He was 60. He didn't last 9 months before he had a heart attack. He ended up going back to Britain. Now just keep that in mind, guys. If you're waiting till it gets out of control in Australia and then you're going to go, you might be too old. And that's kind of why the boomers are just letting the country collapse. It's because they're just too old, too tired, too sick to do anything about it, Yes, I think I might have talked about this in the members section. I met literally a couple days ago, I met this Canadian dude who is you wouldn't believe it, he's 19 years old. I was like, what are you doing here? It was like the other guy from Europe that was doing his masters. And he said he's just traveling the world, he makes money online. I think he builds people's, helps them get followers on their social media accounts. And I think he's a millionaire already. He was talking about not only crypto but stocks. I was like, wow, if I had access to the internet at 19, I think it would have been like, well, the internet in this current version where you can actually do things with it. It would have been great. And for you guys watching this, just keep in mind there's a lot of young Australians that are fully aware of what's going on, that are teenagers and in their 20s, and they're utilizing the internet to try to build some sort of wealth. They're utilizing crypto somehow, some way. They're coming up with creative ways that we can't even imagine at the moment. That's why, like, even at my age, I met the 19-year-old that's like a millionaire traveling the world. I'm like, we need to be friends. Being open-minded and knowing that the kids can teach you something, that will help you, because I learned quite a bit from this 19-year-old, because he's at the cutting edge of what's going on out there, which was great. And I met some. There's basically three types of people here that I've noticed. There's the tourists and mentally ill alcoholics that just come in for like a couple of weeks or something like that. They're a waste of time knowing. The second group are the English teachers. The English teachers who are the English teachers who I think are like mentally ill alcoholics, and I think a lot of them are pedos too. I think a lot of dodgy motherfuckers. And then there's the third group, the group that I like, which is the like entrepreneurs that are making money online. They're super smart. They talk about crypto. They talk about business. They're coming up with new creative ways online to not only make money, but also what they do is they will help other people do the same thing. And the internet's getting bigger every day. There's a lot of opportunities out there. Whoa, what is this guy doing? He's coming around. I might have to end this. What's this smoke? Like, what is this smoke? Okay, now this is the fun that happens in a third world country. I have a feeling that's not good for you. Maybe it kills the bugs, yeah, maybe. Oh, welcome to Asia. Still smells better than Australia, that's for sure. Give it a minute, we'll be right. It's literally just smoked out the whole place. Oh, it's not that bad, really. But anyway, I'm going to jump in the pool. I need to pump out some laps. Part of the goal here is to get fit. And, well, it's not a fire. Yeah, it does. It smells like Maltine. Like, just, yeah. Anyway, guys, first, you know the beauty of just like leaving? No one cares anymore. Yeah, first live in a while. Good to have a live for the first time in a long time. And yeah, who knows? I'm thinking I will. There's still a lot going on. I could probably post on this channel, but I'll also be monetizing it to some extent. You know, yes, we're going to the gym. We are going to the gym. I need to do a whole bunch of laps in this pool, and then I'm going to hit the gym. It's better to do it at night time because it's just so hot. All over Asia, it's just so hot. So you better getting in. And there's a jacked guy. I think he's a bodybuilder. I met him a couple of nights ago in the gym. The guy's ripped. He was doing all these weird dumbbell movements, like small dumbbell movements, and his arms were just cut, like just ripped. So I'm gonna get some, get some tips from him. Get fit while I'm over here. What I mean is, if you leave Australia, no one really cares that much, you know. I think when you're in Australia, they can see everything that you're doing in the background, you know, like I guess like, like back in the day when what do we have? Like Drew Pavlau doing the protests, and other guys in Melbourne, and like people like myself were, helping out with brainstorming ideas in the background, just because it wasn't public. It's that's some of the stuff that we were doing, and the government didn't really like that. But now, I guess, start thinking about how to improve your own life, and possibly leave if you can. And I'll be posting a little bit more on this channel, I would say, moving forward. And I would like to be able to help a lot of Aussies to leave. That's something that I would like to be able to help them. I had to do a little bit of research before I came here. And, if you pick the wrong country geopolitically, that's a lot of money that you're spending and losing in the wrong place. So I think picking a good spot that you're kind of good for the next, say, 5 or even 10 years if you're lucky, might be a better way to do it. But anyway, thanks for the chat, guys. It's been a long time. It's been a very long time since I've had a live. And why are you calling yourself Aussie but bailing? Well, there's no Aussies left in Australia. That's actually a good statement. Because I'd like to talk about that more, because the Aussies, they're the ones online bitching, they're the ones out there protesting, they're the ones like doing the stuff that I was doing. But there comes a point where you got to realize that the sergeants, the people who are in charge, want to have you killed. And so what are you fighting for? You're in fact fighting for the politicians to make them wealthier. The smartest people just like become refugees and try to build a better life somewhere else. Here's another one. We can now go to parts of Asia and start up Aussie towns and start colonizing parts of Asia like the Chinese have done in Australia. How's that for an idea? Start colonizing properly again. But anyway, sun's going down. I'm going to jump in the pool, and I just wanted to have a live and have a chat to you guys. So I'll speak to you guys later. Hey, how do I stop this?